Good evening, Julien. How is life in Paris?
Good morning, Max. Hey, Happy New Year. How was life?
Happy New Year.
How was life in wherever you are? Because it's a new environment. You're traveling again.
I am traveling again. It's a new year. It's a chance to get on the road. I'm on the road again.
Fantastic. Did you take some good resolutions for this new year?
I did. I resolved to have more customer service problems so we would have things to talk about. How about you?
Perfect. Well, my good resolution for this year is I'd like to continue our therapy. I'd like to structure it a little better because I'm thinking it's probably a good way for the audience to, understand where we're going. And I was thinking, let's do what we do, but let's make it clear what is the story, what's the analysis, and most importantly, what is a recommendation that they should take away from any therapy session we're having?
I like that. I think it's a really good idea.
So let's take you as an example because I can feel January 1st, you probably had some issues already. So what's new with you?
So I have a story to tell. I definitely need the couch. And this one is a story of lack of specific ownership, silos across multiple companies, and potential malfeasance.
Oof, that's a hairy one to start with.
Yes. And it's a healthcare one. It's not travel for once. It's healthcare.
That's good resolution. Tell me the story.
So the story, my wife had a doctor procedure. It wasn't a big deal, but went to the doctor, had a procedure, and many months later, got a call from the doctor saying, I just noticed this is going to collections, and I wanted to give you a chance to pay before I went to collections. And I was, oh my goodness, yeah. So they told her how much it was. She paid the bill through a credit card, and that was settled. And then, of course, she came to me and said, or she then dug in with the doctor's office and found out the reason it wasn't paid was they had gone to an old insurance company. The company, the Ring Central, my insurance carrier, changed. They didn't get the update. So they went to the old one. It got rejected. They never came to us until we were about to go to collections and said, hey, yeah. Oh, this is good. Well, we aren't even scratching the surface yet. Just wait. Okay. I manually submitted the new claim. That was a horribly broken process with great customer service. I called the carrier, very confusing what to do. Had to get specific forms that you could not intuitively find online. Got the forms, thanked the person, got off the phone, started to fill them out. And on the third question, I needed help filling out the form. Called back. This time, went through with the agent. And this time she said, I'm just going to stay on the phone. Let's fill in this form together. What more could you ask from an agent? Very supportive, very good. Filled out the form. And then it was, the agent gave me her email address. I took pictures of all the forms and emailed them to her. So between the two calls, this was 3 hours of time. So it was ridiculous, painful, and absurd. And some of that was just, me getting to the right place and all of that. And hold times were pretty long, but it was about 3 hours. But all the stuff went to the agent. The agent's like, I'm going to take care of it. We're backed up for stuff like this. Imagine the healthcare. We're still in a COVID world. We're pretty backed up on this. If you don't hear anything in a month, check back in. So I didn't check back in for about 6 weeks because I'd heard nothing. I got a hold of somebody, and the first thing this person started doing was started going, you do understand the time frames for submitting a claim, don't you? And so I'm like, oh God, I'm going to have to fight now. But I just went through and I explained the situation, and he's like, okay. He found the case in the case history, And he found all the notes, and the agent had said she was going to submit the claim the next day. She never did. So for the last 6 weeks, this has just been sitting there dead. And so the guy looked into it and he said, I'm going to call the billing company on this. And the way it works in the US, and this is the structural siloed issues, the way it works in the US is you have the doctor has a billing company who actually does the billing, and then there's a collection agency when things really get old. So my wife had talked to somebody at the doctor's office. The insurance guy called the billing company, and the insurance guy sent me an email sent me a voicemail and said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about it. This was forgiven. This was a courtesy forgiven billing by the doctor." To which I sent an email, because fortunately I had his email. I didn't have to wait through the very long IVR queue, and said, "No, we paid it." 30 minutes later, I got a call from the agent with somebody from the billing company on the line. And so the three of us are there. Unfortunately, my wife was there too. So the four of us were there, and we talked through the situation. And what happened was we were on a list to go to collections. And then the doctor's office said, no, we took care of this one. This was a courtesy reversal. Just drop this one. It's been paid, or it's been covered. And she didn't say it's been paid, so we forgave it. So that, and the fact that, so now it's like, that's where we are. So the question is, did the person from the doctor's office take the credit card information, take the money and run? The amount that was billed the credit card was a little bit different than the amount that the case was. So that's kind of where this whole thing stands. The insurance people have never followed up with me. It's been a week or two now. I have to go call back and figure out what's going on with this whole thing. But so that's it. Let's get into analyzing this now that you've heard the story.
And
where does this go? What is this? Happy New Year! Exactly.
All right. You start pretty well. You start pretty well here, Max. So let's analyze it. So many things to unpack, actually, and I have the feeling we barely scratched the surface. I have the feeling you did not even tell everything. But let's.
There's a lot of details that we don't have time for.
So, first of all, you got a crazy 3 hours time necessary to fill a form, which is insane. And the fact that you, I may be wrong, but you seem to me like a fairly smart and educated man. So I'm guessing if you can't fill a form, most people can't fill that form. So there might be a deeper problem.
I'd like to think that. I'll take that. I'll take the compliment of that, at least.
There is a great, very nice, helpful, and empathetic agent who happened to enjoy listening to your voice and stick with you for whatever time it took.
And I think the insurance company, I really want to flag that one of the things, and I guess this is really for later in the conversation, but I'm going to flag it now and we can reiterate. They didn't have a average handle time SLA or anything like that. They were there to serve the customer as long as it took.
This is great, and I'm hoping that was not attached to a paid phone number. That would explain why they like to stick with you a bit longer. But
no, it was not.
Okay, all right. So there is a lot of things here. The worst of all, and there is that person who says she's going to do something, which she does not, which has an impact over the next 6 weeks, which is an insane amount of time to wait. There is a fact that it's on you to check in, which is insane. 2022 now, actually.
Yes.
Need to get used to it. 2022, we tend to have something called digital. We have stuff called applications. We have things called notifications. We have emails. We have messaging. There are a million ways to keep people updated, whether you use an ERP, a CRM, whatever technology you're using. There are plenty of ways to make sure you have notifications and flags. It should not be for you to check in to see what happened. It should really be for them to update you. So there are so many problems, but the biggest of all is probably the silos and the complete lack of ownership here. This is a terrible one.
Yeah, and it's there are three This is where U.S. healthcare just completely breaks down. There are three entities involved here. There's the insurance company, the billing company, and the doctor's office themselves. There would have been a fourth if it had gone to collections. And how you can't, and I think we have found over the year we've been doing this, the worst problems are when it takes multiple companies to solve a problem. And always, that's where it's just too easy to finger point.
You had something similar a year ago. That was probably our first story a year ago, or one of the first, around you being billed within the hospital. You had the doctor, the hospital, and the nurse, and whatever, and the insurance, and so many stakeholders for a simple bill.
Yeah.
That was insane. And that's very similar to everything I keep saying about the delivery companies. That's one of my
exactly.
nemesis.
That's what I was thinking about. Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
God. Please take ownership for your own work and manage your business properly. You need one voice to represent your brand for your customers. You cannot send your customers left and right. Someone needs to be in charge. So, all right, can we make some recommendations here? Because I'm pretty sure there are things that they could have done better.
I agree. I think the first one is, and on the forms, it's not their preferred process. Their preferred process is the doctor bills them directly. So I understand that. But still, that form, 3/4 of that form could have been pre-filled for me.
And digital.
Yeah, right, exactly. That could have been a digital form that I filled out online. And then I wouldn't have to take pictures of it and send it through email or mail it. That's the first thing. Digital forms.
A live chat or an FAQ, or those small question mark you can over and know exactly how you're supposed to fill that stuff. We don't live in the world of paper anymore, please.
Once I've identified myself on a web thing, the account number, the group number, all that stuff, I don't have to know any of that. That should all be in the form pre-filled. So that is not hard.
Make it simple for your customers. Do it digital when you can, and just make it intuitive. All right, this one done. Recommendation number 1, good. I'm thinking number 2 is probably around notification. Don't expect your customers to check in. That's your job. You're doing support. Your role is to support. Don't expect people to come back to you every 5 minutes. On top, that's actually a stupid thing to do, because people tend to come more often than they need to, and therefore they just create additional volume of incoming messages, making your life as an agent or as a company even more difficult, because you drown within messages that are completely unnecessary.
In this particular case, it's interesting because they are backed up and things are slow. And nothing happened. So there wouldn't have been anything to notify me, because you wouldn't, you're not going to send a notification on a lack of a ticket.
True, but they were already planning from the start that they would not send you something that's for you to check in. So in this case specifically, even if they had planned to, they would not have been able to notify. But
right. But no, you're correct. They're and yeah, because what does it cost them to send an SMS, an email saying you've moved to this step of the process, versus me calling in and saying, hey, where are we, talking to a human?
And it doesn't take much more to send a notification maybe once a week, or if you pass the SLA, just saying, hey, hang in there a little bit longer. We're kind of late. We packed. But
precisely.
An email is free. You could always argue that SMS requires some technique and maybe some cost. An email is free. You can automate it from your CRM. Just don't make it complex for your customers. Please change that. All right, that's recommendation number 2. I'm sure we can come up with a third one. I have a bunch of ideas. What would be yours?
You know what? I'm gonna make a positive recommendation, because I do think it's worth calling out. Is the way they manage their agents, and that the recommendation is follow what they did do here, which is the only saving grace in this process for me, is make your agents your customers' advocates. Now, granted, the one totally failed, but still, the way they handled the process, I talked to 3 people. They were patient. They were supportive. One was proactively calling me with the other third party on the line already. The agents went above, unless they did nothing unless they broke a promise, which is really I think the other recommendation is fire people who break promises. The fact that the agents were incented to be very customer centric, I think, is important and worth flagging.
I love that. I mean, that's kind of funny because it's kind of a contrast. If I were to pick a third recommendation, is own what you're doing. And
Yes.
it's kind of what the agents did, actually. They actually went beyond, because I'm not sure if they were encouraged to do that or not. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But at the end of the day, they made sure to stick with you until you're somehow satisfied. So they really owned that duty of theirs to support you, which, generally speaking, those three companies did not. It's a matter of go figure it out yourself. So own your own business, own your own customer experience. That's your role as a brand, as a company, which is interestingly a good contrast with what their agents have been doing. So I think there's that.
Great.
Cool. Well, that was a great first session for the year. How do you feel about that?
I feel better. This was one little inside behind the scenes thing. We were a little bit longer from scheduling to be able to do this with the holidays and everything. So I've been carrying this as a weight for a while, and now I'm able to get it off. So this is a great way to start the year, is to be able to get this one off my plate. I appreciate it, and I think there's some good insights in it.
Well, I must say, I've had quite a few funny ones lately. I am so desperate that I need to tell you I probably have another roof story to tell in the next few weeks. But guess yes, I know. And the food delivery is back, and God, you know, it's 2022, but it really has a taste of 2021. So I guess I'm going to have to wait for next week so that we can uncover some of that. And I'll try to come up with new ones so that you don't have to hear me whining about the same thing over and over again. That was so nice to see you again after the holiday season. Happy New Year again to you, my dear Max. And well, I look forward to continue that again next week then.
That sounds great. Thanks, Julien. It was great to see you. Happy New Year. And I hope the holidays were wonderful.
They were. Thank you so much. Talk to you next week, Max. Bye.
Sounds great. Take care. Thanks.